views and opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of Access Fort Wayne, the Allen County Public Library, or any other supporting groups. If you'd like to produce a show, call us at 260-421-1250.
Hello, and welcome to the American Veteran. I'm Dale Parrish, your host. Bud Mendenhall is our co-host. Our guests are two Marines from the Leatherneck Coffee Club in Columbia City. To Bud's left is Grant Loy, and is Larry Davis. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You was both, Larry, where did you serve at?
I served in Okinawa, Japan, from 69 to 72.
And Grant?
Well, I was overseas for 1 year, 1 month, and 29 days from Okinawa, Philippines, Japan, Hong Kong, and a lot of floats, just floating around waiting to do something. But fortunately, I didn't have to.
Yeah. What was they waiting on? What was they
Well, I was in the Marine Corps from 1957 to 1960. Excuse me. And I was overseas from February of 58 to April of 59. And in the meantime, they had the Lebanon situation going on over there. And we loaded up on a APA and started over there so we could go through the Suez Canal and come in for reinforcements if we needed to. But we ended up in Hong Kong for Liberty, so I thought that was pretty nice.
Yeah. Explain APA.
Oh, well, APA is attack transport. That's where they can, where they have the Peter boats that I think they take 15 or 20 people on there, take you into shore and get you up there where you want to do your thing.
Oh.
For God and country, you know.
Yeah, sure.
And I never really liked ships, although there's a lot of terminology we get today from the sailing ships. To know the ropes. You had to know the ropes aboard a sailing ship to know which rope to use when. But it's kind of neat to go back into the history to learn about those things. And in fact, I like history so much that I'm a reenactor over here to the old fort. I'm the
are you?
Oh, okay.
So it's a lot of fun over there also. But anyhow, back to the Marine Corps part. I spent that time overseas, traveling around at different places, and I got word then when I come back in late March or early April that they had went down to my company had went down to Australia, so I missed that one.
Oh.
But I wasn't really mad. I was home.
Yeah.
I ended up in Camp Lejeune. The 2nd Recon Battalion. And I finished my time out there. Then I was discharged on June 27th, 1960.
You mentioned the Philippines.
Yes.
Where were you stationed at over the Philippines?
Subic Bay.
Subic Bay. Okay, I was at Sangley Point my last year.
Oh.
Over the Philippines. Yeah.
Bud's a Navy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I talked to
Yeah,
him
he
about
was
that.
he was giving me a little history out there before the
show
here. I learned a couple things from a Marine.
Well, you know, the reason why they keep Marines aboard ship, always have, so it keeps the sailors in line.
That's probably true.
That really is. Not today, but when they started, yes.
Was you assigned to any ship?
No, I actually, when I was in boot camp, had put in for sea duty But I didn't get that, and after I was aboard ship, in fact, I went over on the A.E. Anderson, and that's the ship that brought the Cabanatuan prisoners of war.
Yeah.
That's what brought them back to America.
Oh, we knew one of them.
And I was fortunate that I got the right on that, but I tell you what, when I got seasick, I was at the fantail. That's the back of the ship. And I went back there to get rid of my lunch, my breakfast, and my dinner the day before, but I could still see the lights of San Diego. And it didn't cease till I got to dry land in Okinawa. And then to show you how efficient the Marine Corps is, they assigned me to the 1st Battalion, 3rd Marines, and 3 days later they put me aboard ship after I got to Okinawa to send me down to the Philippines. So, but going down to the Philippines, I could eat and I could get along pretty good, and I actually kind of enjoyed some of the ship. But I never really did feel good, but I could eat.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
Larry, I knew a kid that was in Okinawa, maybe about the same time you was, or a little later, but they sent him to Korea then for some sort of training. I don't forget it was mountain climbing or I forget what
probably.
it was.
Well, when I was in Okinawa, they sent me to Japan for weapons training. And in fact, I went there 3 times while I was there for a year. And it was in Camp Hansen, or Kadena Air Force Base. That was one that Americans built, real nice. It was all American people there, and that's where our training was at there.
Is that the southern part of Japan, or where else is it?
Okinawa, or Japan, yeah.
The southern tip down in there? Or?
Right,
Yeah.
right. In fact, there's a movie that this Karate Kid 2, I think, it shows Kadena Air Force Base right there, and that's exactly where I was at, right there. And I had orders, the 1st Marine Division orders for Vietnam, and I was on my way to Vietnam to Camp Hague in Okinawa. I got there, they changed my orders to 3rd Marine because I had 3 brothers in Vietnam at that time.
Oh.
And so, being the only brother, I fell under that Sullivan clause. They wouldn't allow me to go.
Yeah.
So they sent me to Okinawa, Japan. And then when I came back, I went to Cuba, spent about 6 months in Cuba too. Little island in Villegas, they called it.
Oh.
In fact, it was the same island that, I don't know if you gentlemen remember Roberto Clemente, who was a wonderful baseball player,
Oh, yeah.
superstar for Pittsburgh. That's where he died at. His plane crashed right there on that island, just as I left. So,
What was your duties on the base when you were there? What did you do during the daytime?
you know, a number of things. I was 0311. We was always out drilling or out in the field practicing our moves and everything. So it was a nonstop. Or you had guard duty, you had poles a lot of times. And like in Japan, when I first got there, we went there for cold weather training. And we went to the base, we was right below the Mount Fuji. I couldn't believe how big it was. And it was about 10 below zero at the time. So I had a little bit of snow, not much. And so they said I had to go back to the beach and guard ammo. So I did that, and I was there with the no shirt on, sun, 78 degrees, beautiful. And went back, had to go back to the tent city we had it, and the tents were probably off the ground about 3-4 feet, something like that. Wondered why. I got back there about 8 o'clock, and there was around 6 foot of snow on the ground. I mean, that much difference from the beach and below that mountain. And it was quite an experience.
Yeah. That Mount Fuji, I think it's Camp Drake is the name of the Army camp there. That's where I was, passing through. But that, Mount Fuji was the most beautiful
Yeah,
mountain
it's a
I've
beautiful
ever seen,
mountain.
yeah.
I got a picture of it with the blue sky behind it, and that
Yeah.
white snow cap just really looks awesome.
Yeah, we were. They gave us 3 days rest leave when we came back off the line from Korea, and there was a hotel there, and they put us in that hotel, and they had bicycles to ride. You know, it was warm down below,
Right.
so we thought, well, let's take a bike ride. Let's ride around Mount Fuji. Well, we didn't realize how big that thing was. So
Yeah.
we got lost in the city. We didn't know how to get back, and some of the Filipinos had to take us back. But it was really neat.
Well, I went up to Tokyo Tower, and they'd never allow you to go all the way to the top. But I was up so high, I was above the clouds, and the only thing you could see was the tip of Mount Fuji. That was pretty
Beautiful.
awesome.
Yeah, it is. When we passed through Camp Drake there on the way to Korea, they took us out on the firing range to give us an M1. They showed M1. They says, you make sure that thing is zeroed in correct because your life is going to depend on it. We got back in the base, they took them away from us and put them back in the storeroom.
But that was a beautiful country. Japan and Okinawa, parts of it was really beautiful. As compared to Cuba, when I went there, it was just solid dirt ground, no grass. If you had seen any kind of livestock, they was just all skin and bone. It just
How big an island is it?
it wasn't much bigger than what Okinawa, Japan was.
Yeah.
But and the dope rate was so high, marijuana, and that was there. It was horrible. And the same cruise I got to go on to the Virgin Islands. That was for our R&R for that weekend. That was pretty nice. So.
Did you get any R&R when you were in?
Oh,
you
I
just
done
traveled
a lot of
yeah.
When I was on Okinawa, I was a switchboard operator, wireman. But the corporal in charge of our unit, he was an exercise nut, and he'd get us all up and get us organized out there and take us and run us around Camp Henson base there at different places. And I only had about 2 of them, and I thought, now there's got to be a better way to do stuff. And that's why I was corporal twice, but one of the reasons. Anyhow, what happened, I figured out he took the same route. So the next time out then, I didn't feel very good for obvious reasons. So I just had enough of that. So I got back to the back of the unit, and when it come by that building, I just stepped off there and waited, and here they come again. Of course, I was in the shadows. This was early in the morning, so I just got in line and went on back to the barracks. That worked twice. And I don't know how he figured it out, but anyway, I got to go up into the front. So if you want to go from the back to the front, do something crazy, I guess. And see, what else was I going to say? I done a lot of stuff.
But you're on the air now.
Yeah, oh yeah, I wasn't thinking about that. I had another experience. That was the first one I wanted to talk about, and man, you know, when you get older, you can't remember what am I doing here? How did I get here? How do I go home? That kind of thing, you know. Anyhow, I enjoyed my part in the Marine Corps, and then when I got back to the States, then I went down to Camp Lejeune. I was in the 2nd Recon Battalion, and I was still a wireman, and they've rearranged stuff now in the modern Marine Corps. They have what they call LAR, that's Light Armored Reconnaissance. And that's basically what we were, but we didn't have any of the Bradleys or anything like that at that time. I guess we was lucky we wasn't on horseback that long ago, but I had a good time in the Marine Corps.
4 years or more?
No, in the 50s, they had started a program of 3-year enlistment. And I was one of the last ones to get in on the 3-year enlistment. I was in from June 27th, 1957 to June 27th, 1960. And then about 58 then, they started with the 4-year re-enlistment, or enlistment.
Yeah.
So, and I wasn't mad about that either.
What's a wireman do?
Well, a wireman, like when the battalion is deployed, you run wires to each company, so they have a communication with one another and with headquarters. And then a lot of the guys didn't like to operate a switchboard, but I didn't mind it because nobody really messed with you. You got to sit down for one thing, you know. And you make a conference call with, say, the sergeant major calls up and wants to get all the top sergeants of the companies together. You would plug those wires all together in the switchboard, and then turn a crank, and then they would all answer. And sergeant major wants to talk to everybody, you know.
Yeah.
And so when they get done then talking, then they would contact the switchboard and just say, they're supposed to say, break it down, but we had one top sergeant would always say, tear it up. So you take all the wires out, or the plugs out, you know, and that kind of thing. And so I had signed up to go on a med cruise. And after I got over to sick bay and got my shots up to where they ought to be, just as I was rolling my sleeve down and walking out of the sick bay, the gunny come up and says, "You can't go." And I said, "What do you mean I can't go?" He said, "Well, the rules are you have to have a year left in your enlistment." And I said, "Well, I only got 8 months." And he said, "That's why you can't go, unless you, not ship over, but extend." I said, "Well, I ain't extending, and you can take these shots back while you're at it." But they never did that.
Yeah.
So, you know, I had a good time in there, I guess.
Yeah. You actually strung a wire yourself, or
Yes.
did you? I'll be
Yes.
darned.
Yeah.
We had wire strung from our battalion to the forward observer. There must have been a ton of wire in there. It would get blown up and they'd run another one.
Well, when I was down in the Philippines at Subic Bay, we were in tents, and they had a rifle range there also, but it was, let's see, what was it, 200, 300, and 500 yards. And they wanted us to guard the butts. That's the carriages that you put your targets on and you raise them up and down, put the plugs in and so on. And there wasn't no wire strung from the 200 yard down to the butts. So I hooked it all up so I could call the main switchboard there, because at that time in the Philippine history, they had what they call hooks. They were communists, and that's why we had to guard it, but they didn't give us no bullets.
Yeah, right.
So my only protection, I guess, was if I needed it. I never did have to call. I'd call in to check to be sure that they knew I was still there, but other than that, that was my only protection. And there was all kind of monkeys and rats and whatever running across the butts, kicking dust, dirt, and whatever down on you. And so they had the pythons or some kind of snake down there. But there's only 2 kinds of snakes I'm afraid of anyway, but And that's dead ones and live ones. But, anyhow, my thing is, if you can't have fun going through this life, you better not go.
It's
So-
it's what you make of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Well, I'd say for myself, I came from a family of 12, and if it wouldn't have been for the Marine Corps, there's a lot of country I couldn't have never seen.
Sure.
And I've seen a lot of beautiful country, and different people, a lot of different people. And I think the American people are a spoiled bunch of people. The countries over there, if our kids had to live the way they did, they'd really find out what it's all about.
Yeah. You
But
see a
thanks
lot-
to the Marine Corps, I got to see a lot of
Yeah.
good things
Yeah.
that I wouldn't have never got to do.
Yeah.
And it's free, didn't cost nothing. So,
Just your time.
yes, and it was all worth it.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
You had
And-
3 brothers in Vietnam.
I had 5 brothers. It was in myself, 6 of us in the armed forces. 3 of them was Army, and 4 of them was Army and 2 Marine Corps. My oldest brother was in Korea. He come back, and about 22 days later, he's in Camp Carson, Colorado, and he was an engineer, and he got killed up there on the turnpike, working on it. And Brother Lowell spent 20 years in the Army, retired. And Jim, he spent 4 years in the Army. He was in Vietnam twice. Brother Lowell was over 4 times, plus in Germany. And then my brother Tim's in the Marine Corps. He lost both of his legs in Vietnam.
That's too bad.
But no. It was too bad he lost his legs, but
That's all right.
he's not a helpless person. He skis, he bowls.
Does
Yes, he does. Rides horseback. And he participates in all these marathons at the Columbus City Marathon's going on tomorrow or Saturday.
Yeah.
And he built him his own wheelchair where he can participate in that. And he pedals that whole 26 miles in that thing with his arms and hands. I'm very proud of my family.
Yeah.
And I was the lucky one that didn't go to Vietnam, thanks to them.
Well, I
But
know
I'm
one thing.
Very
I know
proud
Tim.
of my
I don't
family.
mean to interrupt you, but I
No.
got to say this, Larry, because I don't want to forget it. If Tim shakes your hand, when you get back, because he's just all muscle everywhere, you know, and he's a nice guy. I like him. I recently met him when he started coming out to the Leatherneck Coffee Club for breakfast, but of course Larry's been coming for a long time.
Yeah, 7, 8 years.
Yeah.
And but he's very active. Every weekend he's in a veterans marathon of some kind, and he participates in the Olympics for the handicap. And right now he holds I think national record for bench pressing 368 pounds, something like that. And try that sometimes with no legs. You know,
I can't imagine that wheelchair
and-
going 26 miles. I couldn't do
Yeah.
that if I was 20-something years
Yeah.
old, I don't think.
he's very active,
Wow.
and I'm very proud of him.
We got the marathon coming up this weekend, and it's honoring the Marine Corps. But I was on the last water station last year, and I seen this guy coming in a wheelchair, and I couldn't. I knew Tim, but I can't see like I ought to. But when he come up, I just couldn't believe it. Not because that he didn't have any legs, but because it was Tim. I know that guy, and I didn't know he did that, and there he is. I was really pleasantly surprised, I should say.
But he's strong. Well, that is hands and arms was his legs, you know.
Sure.
And my gosh, like you said, he grabs a hold of you, you know, you've been grabbed. You're very strong in his hands.
Nice
Your
guy, though.
Your family all live around Columbus City? Yeah.
Oh, we're scattered everywhere. Yeah, I got my one brother in Texas, and majority of them's around Warsaw and Columbus City area, South Whitley.
Makes a nice homecoming, nice reunion.
Oh yeah, we our last reunion I think we had around 230 some
Was there?
So a lot of kids.
A lot. That's a lot.
Yeah. The one thing I want to mention here right quick, today is the Marine Corps birthday, 236. In theory, the Marine Corps was formed at Tunn's Tavern in Philadelphia in 1775, November 10th. And I don't know of any Marine that don't know when the birthday is. It's celebrated throughout. In fact, last night I was over to AJ's Tavern over there on Getz Road, and they had a little service there. The thing was, the guys that was going to do it had to be in Indy today to do one down there also. So we had the cake and a little program and I thought it was really, really neat. But now, not to knock the Army, but they don't have a birthday celebration, I don't believe.
Navy does, but we just
yeah.
had ours a while
Yeah.
back. Yeah.
You know, our club, we got Leatherneck. We'll have guest speakers come in there, and some of these Marine veterans, the seniors, gentlemen I respect dearly, they start telling some of their stories, and that's what's nice about the club. They'll come in and start telling stories of this and that, and man, they could really bring tears out of your eyes to listen to some
It
of their
does them
stories.
good to tell their stories too.
Yes.
Gets it out.
And it makes them feel good. They get to open up to somebody and talk to them about it, and it makes them feel good.
Yeah, it makes people who understand it really. You know.
Yeah. They don't have a really idea what the servicemen went through. You gentlemen, our families. It's really hard on the families, and but it's rewarding. I'd do it all over again.
Sure, I would
Sure,
too.
I would too.
I was ready to right after 9/11.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
on that note, there was, I don't know, 3 or 4 of us down at Camp Lejeune. We went down to the Wounded Warrior Barracks, and there was a young lad in there. They've renamed the company, or the country. It's Miramar now, or whatever it is over there by India. Anyway, he was from that, and he was over here going to school in New York City, and when 9/11 happened, and he was at the Wounded Warrior Battalion when I was there, or when our group from the Leatherneck Coffee Club.
Speed it up.
Oh, anyway, he had joined the Marine Corps because of 9/11.
Oh.
And I had been down to Camp Lejeune after that, and he's been wounded twice.
I'll be done. I hate to shut you off. We're out of time. I want to thank you both for being here. It's been a fast half hour.
It's been an honor. Appreciate it.
And thank you for joining us. If you enjoyed the program, we're on every Friday night at 7:30. And just remember, freedom is not free. Thank you and good night.